So the technology that we've implemented at Do Good Foods not only analyzes and measures and weighs the inputs throughout our entire process, but then our entire operation is fully automated from start to finish. The moment that a forklift guy or woman puts the bins onto our conveyor system, the algorithm and the technology takes over. So we not only measure and we weigh every bin that goes through the process, but then the technology overlays the right temperatures that that product goes through from a pasteurization perspective. It then goes through a large, what's called a centrifuge, which actually spins out the fats to a specific composition that's necessary for the animal's optimized diet. And then we blend a multitude of batches together, very similar how wine is blended. So I know New Zealand loves wine, so we're doing kind of the very similar process. And then that product then simply gets dried, and we're able to get to pretty much a 4 sigma variation. So amazingly nutrient consistent on that perspective. So I think technology through and through, all of that is populated to essentially a single iPad that then we're able to analyze from the nutritional composition, the pasteurization perspective, and all of that quality assurance. Yeah, so we are able to take all of the surplus grocery food and dry it to a feed form, and it kind of comes out looking like a ground coffee ground. And that product is able to now go through the existing feed mill infrastructure, no different than corn and soy. It shows up in a standard truck, no different than corn and soy. And I think that's the uniqueness around this whole solution, which is kind of truly bringing sustainability to scale and empowering farmers across the globe to now actually truly fight food waste and combat climate change by just simply continuing to grow their animals. I think the waste industry, which I don't like to call it waste, I think it's just surplus, whether that mean it's plastics or food or whatever it may be. I think AI and technology will continuously change this market for hopefully the greater good in a massive and great way. For example, plastics. I think it's only 8% of the global plastic production is actually recycled, largely because they can't identify each specific plastic or product quick enough in order to actually separate it into its specific lines. Well, AI and technology can easily do that from, if you put it and overlay that on a conveyor system, you can actually identify every plastic and then divert it in the right way. I think from an optimized logistics perspective, making sure that things are not going to a landfill, but that are able to actually go to a solution that is actually up much higher in the use case of that product. I think that all starts to really be optimized by technology quite rapidly. Logistics is one of the biggest and most difficult dynamics around the waste industry. And the more that you can understand that and see that and optimize, I think the better and greater the entire industry and hopefully the sustainability initiatives truly get. If you are a small or medium business in New Zealand and you have any waste or any byproduct, that is inherently a loss to the business from an economics. So this just goes down to economics. If you can optimize and utilize all your resources in a greater, better way, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you be able to create a more economically viable solution for your entire business or your farm or whatever it may be? And so we look at waste coming from these big industries as completely economically against whatever company is actually providing us essentially our inputs or our waste. That's why we get them often for free, because they don't know where else to put it. And that's why we can create good businesses by upcycling all of that material. Well, if you're a small or medium business, I would look at the waste streams as no different. How do you upcycle that into either your current business or a neighbor business that might be able to utilize that input for something? And I think that's a huge economically viable solution that makes your business more money, which at the end of the day is what a majority, if not everyone's focused on, followed by sustainability. I think AI and tech can absolutely help get us to reaching the Sustainable Development Goals, initiatives, and quite frankly, requirements for the world. I think, let's take, for example, methane. If we want to truly help reduce greenhouse gases and the global warming, we really need to be focused on to methane. It is 86 times more potent than CO2 on a 20-year life cycle, and it's largely created by 3 or 4 major industries, of which we actually have solutions to solve the methane from being created. What's missing is the data and the collection of that and understanding all of that. Well, now all of a sudden with satellites and AI and technology, we can actually quantify on a daily basis the methane leaching from landfills and open landfills. Similarly, we could use AI and technology to actually overlay that to where and what oil rigs are actually leaking methane. And we have the technology and the solutions to actually help solve that, so long as we can actually identify the point source and at where and at what volume. And I think that's what's so powerful around actually addressing and completing the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, overlaying AI to actually understand, create the right markets, and align governments and policies and corporations in connection with the consumer to actually drive these solutions to the height that they need to.